What's up, everyone? This is Prince Robert Onyejiaka with Prince Tech TV. Today, I have a very special guest. Her name is Allison Adelier Gordon. She is the Enterprise PMO Manager for Avial, which is a Boeing company. And what they do is they design, sell, manufacture airplanes, satellites, rockets, and deal with all kind of materials as it relates to aerospace. And of course, IT drives everything. So stay tuned and just gain some great insights from a very special guest. Hello, Allison. Thank you for coming on this vlog today.
My
And
pleasure.
viewers will very much appreciate what you have to say as an enterprise PMO manager. And you're with Boeing.
Yes, so I contract at Boeing and I've kind of bounced between contracting and full-time, for the most part, contracting or consulting, I should say, for quite a few years. So yeah, my last 3 years have been at Boeing. I'm still there. Um, and it's a pretty dynamic time right now across the world. Um,
Yeah.
Certainly in this country and certainly in the airline industry. But yes, I'm at Boeing.
Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about Boeing and what the company does? And I'm sure most people know, but for the people that don't, let's let them know.
Right. So at a very high level, Boeing makes airplanes. Um, and 3 years ago when I joined, I started work at a company called Aviol. Aviol is a subsidiary of Boeing, and basically Aviol, it's a logistics company that deals with airplane parts.
Hmm.
Anything from engines to bolts to oil to whatever you need to keep an engine, um, to keep a plane um, serviced, I guess. And so Aviol has been absorbed in the process of being absorbed into Boeing for a few years, and that's kind of how I ended up where I am.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So with Boeing, you have a pretty powerful position with them. You're the enterprise PMO, and that's not to be taken lightly because Boeing is a very big company, and you're doing some contract work, and you're working with them. And could you just let us know like what your day to day looks like um, from that position?
Right. So my day to day has evolved over the last 3 years as the company has changed, as Avior has been absorbed into the Boeing organization. And so it's been quite the process. When I started out 3 years ago, at Avior, the mandate was to help um, kind of bring some structure to and essentially get the enterprise PMO off the ground. And so that entailed helping to structure and manage the enterprise project management office, which basically owned the entire process from the point in which um, a product owner or product manager or customer, some variety, um, had an idea for a project that they wanted to present to IT to work on. So the point from which that um, idea came into IT and all of the gates that it had to go through
Hmm.
to be able to get funded and approved and legal, um, all of those gates and processes to get to the point where we had a fully funded project, overseeing the project execution and then the closeout on the tail end. So um, that was the mandate when I started.
Right.
Um, Based on the fact that Aviol is no longer exists basically and has been absorbed into Boeing. Um, my role right now at this very point in time is pretty hands-on in terms of I have a couple big programs that I'm running um, for BDI or Boeing.
Okay.
And um, so yes, it's today in today's world right now with everything that's going on is extremely hands-on. It's pushing through a program that I've worked on for about a year and a half now, that basically has to do with some regulatory mandates that we have to meet as part
Yeah.
of the Boeing acquisition, I should say. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So would you say that those regulatory mandates, that's like a big challenge? And if so, why is it a big challenge?
Um, I wouldn't say the mandates are a big challenge per se. I would say it is high priority just because they are mandated and there are hard deadlines that we have to meet.
Yeah.
Certainly at this time, we have, it's in the news. We've had some layoffs, some voluntary departures, some layoffs, just based on everything that's going on in the industry and certainly everything that's going on at Boeing. And so I think our biggest challenges right now are managing a mission critical, like very deadline oriented, critical project with resources that continue to shift, um, just because our pool of resources are changing
Right.
um, to some degree, and it's definitely a thing that's going on in the airline industry right now.
Yeah.
And certainly we're dealing with that at Boeing too.
Yeah, I can just only imagine just like how COVID itself has affected the airline industry.
Yeah.
And from your perspective, like what are some other ways that you feel like COVID has affected that? And I know that okay, less people are taking planes and stuff like that, but from an IT perspective, do you see any kind of impact that's had?
Um, yes, for sure. I mean, some of the standards in terms of um, we have had people get sick. We've had people whose
Oh,
relatives are taking care of, or parent or children or whatever, have gotten sick. We do have a multinational team, so we have team members kind of across the world. All of the dynamics, the working dynamics in terms of how people are working, you can hear kids in the
mm.
background sometimes. You can hear
Oh,
it's
that's
just
fine.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely changed. We were able to move very quickly home. So everybody, most people within IT have been home, and we were kind of poised to be able to do that, before COVID hit. But certainly, there are some nuances. We run a scaled agile methodology, and I think by the intent generally in an agile world is it started out being kind of a co-located type work environment. Not necessarily now, but certainly some of the ceremonies that are part of the agile world are easier done in person with a
Yep.
whiteboard and post-it notes and stuff like that. So, we've certainly had to make some of those changes, which,
Hmm.
I think everybody has. But yeah, so some of those things, just the work and environments have changed, kind of adapting to, being mostly remote.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I think those would be the top ones that come to mind.
Yeah, and that brings me to think like I understand, remote work is pretty much this. I don't want to say the standard, but it's much more common now with everything that's going on. But one of the bigger questions that a lot of professionals or a lot of people from various industries are asking is because everything is starting to move more towards remote now, does that affect the productivity or the efficiency or being able to deliver on task, et cetera, as it relates to projects?
Yeah.
Do you feel that way?
I don't think so. I think there were definitely some early adjustments that had to be made. But and yes, coming into COVID, we in IT in general, telecommuting is not a new thing.
Yeah.
But certainly, kind of the way that it hit very fast and kind of 100% telecommuting, which has been what it's where we've been for 7 months or however long it's been. Um, Certainly there were some modifications that we had to make, but as a whole, no, I don't think it's impacted productivity. I think people are working longer hours. I
Oh,
think people are
really?
working long, absolutely. I think people are working longer hours. And it's always been that way for me when I work at home. It's just a little harder to pull away from. And so, yeah, we're meeting deadlines. We are getting things done. We're finding new ways to up the collaboration so that we don't lose, um, some of the nuances of communication that you could being not, in the same building.
Hmm.
But I think just based on where we are, and I think this is pretty common probably across the board in the IT arena. For the most part, I think people were generally poised to be able to make that adjustment, at least from a technology standpoint and,
Right.
general infrastructure. But yeah, we're definitely delivering.
Okay. I've always believed, well, I've always wondered why that it took COVID to even move into leaders understanding, hey, people can be just as productive working from home as being in
Yeah,
person. And there's been some remote work out there a ton, but now it's just like, you hear about, these Fortune 500 companies closing their office, some of their offices and say, oh, just straight remote, even
yeah,
after COVID.
yeah,
So it's very interesting how
yeah.
the world is changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are starting to question those leases, and that overhead. Because, yeah, from a technology standpoint, I think the infrastructure has been there for decades
Yep.
to be able to telecommute. And I think, people have pivoted very well, even with the added stress of, maybe a house full of family members under the same roof with all additional stuff going on, and children going to school and spouses on conference calls. And even with the additional layer of all of that, I think, for the most part, we've pivoted pretty well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys have pivoted fairly well, and um, I'm hoping, or I think a lot of companies have pivoted very well. And what I'm curious to see is if it's going to sustain, even after COVID leaves, are people still going to be staying with the telework and remote work? But I guess only time will tell once
Right.
this all really
Right.
blows over.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel my hunch says, just based on the trends that I've seen, my hunch is that we're not going to go back to exactly the way we were. I think we've kind of been forced to prove that um, there's another blend of dynamics that um, can also be efficient and perhaps save some money. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so. Okay. Well, I have another question. Could you tell us about some of the actually some of the more challenging projects that you're overseeing or that's in the portfolio, just generally, if you're able to, if you're allowed to or not, but
Yeah. Um, I don't. There is not one that comes to mind
okay,
right now. Um, not especially so. I mean, the stuff that I'm working on right now, I've had for a while, and we're kind of a little bit of a rhythm. There's stress,
okay,
um, there's tension from the perspective of, we have dates we're trying to meet. We've got a lot of dynamic things going on, but overall, we're in a good bit of a rhythm. So I'm trying to think back to earlier years or projects that I've worked on.
Or I'll say this, okay, with what you're doing right now, what are some of the bigger challenges that you're encountering with what you're doing?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest challenge is kind of more of what has pretty much been the case for the 20 some years that I've been in IT, which is we have an ask, we have a deadline and we have X amount of people and we want it all yesterday, basically. The deadline's all. So that whole dynamic of, managing that train is pretty much par for the course and probably exaggerated a little bit just based on, just some of the additional stresses that this year has brought to us and losing some valuable team members and making those pivots and figuring out how to fill in those gaps and, get it done faster and get it done very well. Quality is always going to be a big thing. So managing all of those dynamics and keeping, improving quality and making those deadlines, all of that,
Right.
it's just more of the same, just slightly more exaggerated with where we are with yeah.
Well, I mean, of course, it's going to be, yeah, I think that would make sense because if you guys have less resources, you still have to meet the same deliverables in the same amount of time. I could only imagine that the stress level is going to increase.
Yeah.
So my next question is, with less resources due to current circumstances, what strategy are you guys taking to ensure we still meet those deliverables with less resources or less projects being taken on?
Right. Sometimes we can't meet the deliverables with less resources, so it's a matter of prioritizing.
Okay.
It's a matter of being able to quantify business value and delivering based on value, right? We have also needed to increase our communication as teams and between teams. So I might have a resource that's shared across multiple projects and I'm kind of at a key point in my project where I need to have, I have 15 hours of work that has to be done. So kind of going across the aisle to the other product and saying, okay, I know you also are, you also have this person on your team, but can I have these 15 hours and in 2 weeks, I'll give you 10 hours, that type of figuring out ways to make it work, figuring out ways to work through things both within the team. So I know this person usually plays this role in this team, but is there anybody else who might have some bandwidth that we could kind of, spread out the work a little bit more or reshuffle or stuff like that, reaching out across the aisle to other project teams to see where we can find some efficiencies, reaching out to other projects to figure out, okay, they're actually working on this, which is very close to this. Maybe we take that from them and give them this because then we don't have to test in two places.
Yeah.
Pieces of work that are very related. So things like that, just trying to problem solve and trying and communicating and seeing what options are out there.
Interesting. So it almost sounds to me, and I could be wrong, that because you guys have cut down on some of your resources, now you're trying to make some resources that you still have as a hybrid to compensate for the ones that left, maybe, or
Yeah, I wouldn't say a hybrid per se. I would say, I would say just making sure that we're planning the work and we're executing the work in the most efficient way based on everybody's skill sets, where we need to, reaching across the aisle and, to other teams and working through issues, either resources or, um, packets of work or whatever it might be. It's more, I think, a matter of consistently evaluating the way that the work is being done
right. Hmm.
and figuring out where we can be more efficient, I guess.
Okay, sounds good. And then I have another question. So, going off of your background, you've held PMO director positions, enterprise PMO director positions. Like, how did you get into where you are now? Because I mean, it's pretty impressive. When I looked at your background and your past education and your past work experience, what made you decide, okay, I want to be an enterprise PMO, or did you just naturally, organically go into that?
I just it was kind of a progression of things. And I'm kind of, I've never really been the kind of person who's like, okay, I have to have this title by X day or whatever time frame or whatever it is. It's just been more of an organic evolution of things. And I'm just as comfortable helping set up a project management office as I am, actually managing projects and programs and rolling up my sleeve to whatever degree that has to be. It's more a matter of, what's the current need. And because I've done a good amount of consulting over the last 15 years or so, I've done more consulting than anything else. I have had the opportunity to do lots of different types of things. When I started out in the industry, I started out at IBM and I was a business analyst, a financial business analyst. And then I moved into, I've worked in quite a few different industries, but the type of work that I did just continued to build on the previous. And so, that was at a time where the concept of project management and then the concept of project management offices were still being, it was kind of in the early days. And so I've kind of grown up in IT with this whole concept of, the project management office and what it means in the enterprise project office, et cetera. So it's just been, I'd say some organic, but what I enjoy about the leadership roles is that it allows, I'm pretty methodical in the way that I think, and it allows me to, there's an element of creativity. It allows me to kind of just create, basically. Look at a situation, understanding what the basic project management philosophies are and goals. Look at a specific client situation, understand some of the nuances of this particular client, some of the nuances of what they do and how they're structured, and basically build something that fits them, but kind of adheres to the basic project management principles. to
Mm.
provide, an additional level of structure, an additional level of visibility and transparency for all of our stakeholders and just things like that. So I enjoyed that element of leading project management offices or helping build project management offices, because it's just a creative process that I
Okay.
enjoy. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a creative process, not an easy process, but a creative one. So
for sure.
it's so my last question is so as far as initiatives go, what are some initiatives, if you're allowed to, tell us that you guys are currently working on to better Boeing or reach the business objectives per se?
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything specific that I can talk to right now, but I would
Okay.
say, um, as a general rule, right now it's about efficiencies. It's
Okay.
about finding better ways to do things, um, with less money, with exceptional quality. Um, yeah, I would say that's kind of the name of the game, at least from my perspective of what I'm seeing and what I'm trying to contribute to.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay,
Wonderful.
all
Well,
right.
Allison, I appreciate this interview. Is there anything else that you want to let the viewers know, or any kind of thing you'd like to share?
Huh. Yeah, no, nothing is coming to mind. I kind of came in here without really giving a whole lot of thought to this, so
Which is good. That's definitely what we want.
I'm glad it went well. But yeah, it's a fun. I think the whole aspect of project management and project offices is a fun discipline.
Hmm.
I enjoy it, and yeah, I
Okay.
guess that's all I have.
Oh yeah, it is fun, but like you said, it's a great discipline, and also to get to your level, for everybody that's watching, it takes a lot of discipline too. So very
Well,
commendable.
thank you very much. Well, it's been
All
fun. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you
right.
today, and yeah,
Okay.
you
Thank
have
you.
a fabulous evening.
All right. You too.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.